Hello and welcome. This is Matthias 76. Together, we are decoding the deception, continuing in our study of the book of Revelation, and we have come to chapter 12. And chapter 12 begins another one of the major sections of Revelation. You can look at the book as being divided a few different ways. John had a couple different ways that he was doing that, or more accurately, the Holy Spirit did, because all of this, remember, all of it is revealed to John. John just wrote down what he saw. He didn't go back and edit. He just wrote down what he saw. So the layout here, as recorded by John, is simply the order in which the Holy Spirit presented these things to him, these visions that he saw. And as I said, there are different ways the book is divided. One of the major ways the book is divided up is into the sets of 7. We have 4, actually 5 sets of 7. We've got 7 letters to 7 churches. I guess actually 6, 5 or 6, depending on how you look at it. We've got 7 letters to 7 churches. We've got the 7 seals. We've got the 7 trumpets. And in the midst of the 7 trumpets, we have the 7 thunders that John was told not to write down. In between there, we've got some interludes that we have talked about. Now we come to the next set of 7, and that is 7 visions. You go through and you count. There are 7 different visions that are laid out here. And remember, all of these sets of 7 are different ways of looking at many of the same things, okay? And the image that we use is that great big gemstone in one's hand, and as you turn the gemstone, you see it from different angles. It's still the same gemstone, but you're able to get more insight, understanding of the different facets, angles, those things of the same gemstone, okay? With the 7 visions, we have a good bit of the history of the New Testament church laid out for us. And in the first vision, it covers quite a bit of it, just in the first vision alone. And this is the vision of the woman and the dragon. Don't know how far we're going to get in this episode. There is so much for us to cover. There is a severe handicap of our own that we have to overcome in order to truly mine all of the truth that is here for us in this section. So we'll read the first few verses. And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet and on her head, a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems, and his tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. She gave birth to a male child who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. But her child was caught up to God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, in which she is to be nourished for 1,260 days. All kinds of things to unravel here, to unpack as we look at this. The first thing, I talked about the handicap that we have. Our view of what we see, our understanding of what we see when we look up into the night sky is radically different than what the people of John's day, and for some time after that, and definitely going back into antiquity, yea, the beginning of time, the way they looked at the night sky. And I think in many regards, they had it more accurate than we do in the key and most important components. And I'm not going to get into science and all of that. It really has no bearing on this. And it would drag me down a path, a tangent that would take up too much time. The people of John's day, the people of antiquity, as we like to call it, believed that the night sky, the stars, the heavens, the planets, whatever you want to call them, was used by God to portray things, to play things out. They believed that those stars, and when the morning stars sang, Jesus refers to himself as the bright and morning star, that these things were depictions of divine reality, that is what took place there. And let us not forget that it was a star that led the wise men to the birth of Jesus, something that we always have to stop and think about, and we tend to stumble and bumble over when we get to it. When we look at Genesis 1, 14 and 15, this is the creation narrative, Genesis 1, and God saying, let there be lights, let there be light. And then he says, and God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, and let them be lights in the expanse of the heavens, give light upon the earth. And it was so. Let them be for signs. The names of the different constellations and things that we see there represented different things. Now, I'm not talking about astrology. Here's your horoscope for today. If you're a Leo, don't talk to people who are selling cucumbers. Something bad might happen. None of that nonsense. Satan always takes things that God intended for good and twists them into some kind of, for lack of a better term, idiocy. The constellations were used by God to give signs, like, hey, something is happening. And what do we have here? And over here on the side, and I will be referring to this, and many of you might have heard me talk about it before, Michael Heiser has done a lot of really good work on this, about exactly what this sign that appears in the heavens depicted when you look at the things that are described. A woman, that's Virgo, Mary, the Virgin. A woman clothed with the sun. A different picture here. So there we've got Virgo in the night sky. Here, we'll use this image. It's a better one. Here's Virgo. You've got the kind of, and I'll be honest, I'm one of these people, I look up at the stars and I'm with someone else who, oh, there's so-and-so, and there's the Pleiades, and here's this, and here's that. And I look up and I see dots. I take one of those tests about what do these shapes represent, and I'd flunk. I wouldn't get it. But we've got the Virgin. She's clothed with the sun. This is talking about the placement of the heavenly bodies, very precise placement of the heavenly bodies. The moon is at her feet. She's got a crown of 12 stars. Leo, let's think about this. We've got a virgin. We've got the moon at her feet. We've got her clothed in the sun, and we've got Leo, Judah, the lion of the tribe of Judah, that is her crown. Okay. And there are things we can think of here. Think of Joseph when he had his dreams. And what was his dream? That the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down before him. It was putting him in this position of importance and authority. These are biblical concepts that we have here, but it is also a very exact depiction. And this picture doesn't show it, but the dragon appears and he's waiting for the child to be born. One of the constellations, it's a combination of two of ours, and honestly, I can't ever keep these things straight. They called it Draco. It was the dragon. It was down here, if this picture were extended, by her feet. Okay. These things, these particular placement of the stars, of the heavenly bodies, occurred exactly once in all of history. It occurred in the year, by our calendar, 3 BC. It happened on September 11th for precisely 30 minutes. I believe it is 30 minutes, that these things were exactly aligned the way it is described here. We have here depicted the birth of Christ, and that is exactly what's being talked about. He's born, the dragon tries to destroy him, devour him, think Herod, trying to kill him while he was still an infant, and God preventing that from happening. All of those things, and then even his victory and being taken up into heaven, Satan trying to destroy him. That's why he was crucified. Satan thought he had won. All of these things of the birth, the life, the victory, the ascension into heaven of Jesus Christ being depicted all in this one vision. But the date is incredibly significant because that date that is our September 11th, 3 BC, just happened to be the first day of the first month of the Jewish calendar, Tishri 1. Every king of the nation of Israel, even in the divided kingdoms, every one of their reigns was counted from starting on Tishri 1. That's when a king began officially to reign. When was the King of Kings born? He was born on Tishri 1. And it's described for us in detail. Look in the heavens. The heavens do what? Psalm 19 tells us the heavens declare the glory of God. Let's go take a look. I'll pull that one. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. Day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words whose voice is not heard. Their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. God is stating with this, he tells people about things. It's there in the sky for all to see. And all the people of that day looked at the night sky the same way. Paul quotes this about the gospel going out to all nations. They looked at things differently. Their view of the world, God's cosmos, radically different than ours. And if we want to mine the truth that is here, we have to adapt our thinking to the way that we have to be enlightened by the truth that they understood. And interestingly, the science, so-called of today, and I like to refer to NASA as never a straight answer. I don't trust a single thing they say about anything. They would tell us that the stars are entirely something else and represent other things, and they use it to make us feel very alone in the universe. We're just a little insignificant blue ball circling around the sun, and there have to be others out there, and we'll find them. We're not that special. We're not that different. Diametrically opposed to the truth that God tells us. God tells us the truth about his plan of salvation and the birth of a Savior. She was pregnant and crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth, the anticipation of the coming of the Christ, waiting and waiting and waiting. And oftentimes for a pregnant woman, that 9 months can seem like a whole lot longer than 9 months. They had been waiting thousands of years. This is the great sign that is portrayed in the heavens that John sees. And another sign appeared in heaven. Get this, the virgin giving birth, the fulfillment of God's plan, is a great sign. Satan, the dragon, that's just another sign. It's another sign. It's not on the same level. Another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his head 7 diadems. Dragons. The way we look at dragons, the way they looked at dragons, entirely different. We turn it into something cute. How to Train Your Dragon. They're the shows for kids. All of that stuff. It's about knights riding around on horses and with their big lance fighting dragons nonsense in cartoons, whatever. Go with that as you may. Dragons to them represented something else. A dragon, in their minds, depending on the exact geographic cultural context, dragon equaled beast, equaled Leviathan, different names for it. It represented chaos and destruction. In the mind of the Hebrews, when God led them across the sea and parted the water, he defeated chaos. Chaos. What does Satan represent? Satan represents chaos. Is chaos good? Do you feel safe when there's chaos? I mean, true chaos. I'm not just talking about social uprising and upheaval and rebellion and that kind of chaos and lawlessness. I'm talking about the chaos of an ocean that can go from being calm and smooth and beautiful to a huge storm that can sink your ship, and the beasts, the scary things that are down there. And if you've ever been out in the deep in a relatively small boat and the depth finder is telling you that there is 712 feet of water underneath your boat, you wonder about what's down there. And if I fell in that water, what might be there? Thinking about that half hour after a hammerhead shark just swam by the boat. A little bit of personal reflection there. The deep is scary to us. It's chaos. It is all those bad things. And the dragon in antiquity, in their mythology, that's what it represented. So we've got the dragon, chaos, the very thing over which Jesus came to reestablish order. And this dragon is a great red dragon. He's great big. He's a big red dragon, and he's got 7 heads. Many of the dragons in antiquity, Babylonian lore, other things, had 7 heads. Why? Because the same B'nai Elohim who were leading the different nations astray, they were all reading from the same playbook. And in many instances, they were probably helping each other out. I don't know how all of it went, but many of the dragons had 7 heads, and dragons never represented a good thing. And 7 heads also, we've got the idea here of 7 being the number of the covenant, 7 being the number of God's benevolent interaction with mankind for the saving of mankind. He's a phony. He's a fraud. What does Satan want? He wants worship. He wants adoration. He wants obedience and praise. What did he want Jesus to do? Bow down and worship me, and all this I will give to you. He wants to be God. He wants to usurp and displace God. That's what he's about. So 7 heads, and yet he's got 10 horns on his heads. The horns represent power. Okay, we're just going to leave it at that. They always did. They always have. They still do. If you've ever been around animals with large horns, you're going to respect them, or bad things are going to happen. Okay, 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 diadems. We've got this lack of symmetry that we're seeing here, and I want to pop a picture up. Interestingly, and there are a number of the things here as we work our way through that tie back to Daniel and Daniel's vision. Daniel's vision, he saw 4 beasts in Revelation 7, representing the different nations. Okay. Now, moving forward with the beast that comes out of the sea, civil and secular government that serves and is the placeholder for the dragon, Satan, in this world. All the heads are combined. And count the heads in this picture. We've got 4 on the leopard, 1 on the lion, 1 on the bear, and 1 on the great and terrible beast that just terrified Daniel. It represents Rome. And remember, Rome never dies. It's still here. You're living in it. Look at Washington, D.C. Look at Rome. Look at London. 10 horns on that great and terrible beast. Now in this compilation, the combination of all the beasts into one big ugly beast system, you got 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 diadems. There isn't symmetry. It's never quite right, no matter how it tries to portray itself as being the replacement for God. And the problem with government today, and we'll talk about this different times, the Hegelian dialectic and the portion of Hegel's thinking that most people skip over in the Hegelian system, and every government in the world operates with the Hegelian mode of operation. The state is God. But it's never the benevolent, kind, loving God that we want. It's kind of ugly and twisted and mal-shaped. It's like 7 heads and 10 horns. It's like lipstick on a pig. No matter what you do to it, it's still a pig. No matter what you do, this is still a beast, and it's not good. We've got a red dragon with 7 horns, 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems. We'll stop with this one probably because time is rapidly moving along. Diadems. To us, crown is a crown, whatever. Yeah, they're all the same. Not so. Not so. We're just going to talk about the diadem. Diadems represent the claim of divine authority. It's saying you're God. The first Roman emperor to wear the diadem was Nero. Wanted to truly be worshipped as God, and all the people who were in power thought he was nuts, but they weren't going to cross him, right? And then that went away for a while, and the next emperor to put on the diadem and insisted that everyone who approached him bowed down and addressed him as Lord and God was Diocletian. Now, Diocletian, that name doesn't mean much to us, but guess who reigned? John was writing the book of Revelation. The emperor of the Roman Empire was Diocletian, wearing a diadem, claiming divine authority. That's what the beast is doing here. That is who he is setting himself out to be. That is what his aim and intent is, maniacally focused upon, usurping God, taking God's place. And in order to do that, he's got to get this child of the woman gone. And one thing I should say about the woman, the best way to understand who the woman represents, faithful believers. Put whatever name on it you want, Israel, but it's the faithful believers. Not all Israel was faithful, just like you could say with Jacob and his 12 sons, 11 of them weren't that faithful really at the time, but Joseph was. And they all bowed down and worshiped him in his dream, and then in real life, they did that very thing as the narrative moves along past Genesis 37. But this is the imagery that is being laid out here, and it gives us some fantastic details. And just with it, I mean, it's astounding how many different threads of biblical truth are pulled together and woven together just here in 3 verses. And honestly, I've only touched the surface of it. I could have gone into many other instances backing up the things that I've said with other Bible references that make it abundantly clear this is exactly what is being portrayed here. And it's nothing new. It's nothing new. It's all pulled together, perhaps, for the first time, but there isn't a single thing here. I think we can say there is not a single thing here that is new. It is the combination of many truths that have been woven throughout the scriptures up to this point. Next time, we'll pick up with his tail swept down 1/3 of the stars and all of those things and all that follows. Do appreciate you being here. I do pray that this ministry, this teaching is a blessing to you, that you are getting something out of it. We try to go deep into the Word, talk about things perhaps in ways that you haven't heard other places, and I hope that it is a benefit to you. If it is, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe, share it, all that good stuff. We appreciate it. This is Matthias 76 together. We are decoding the deception. God bless and have a great day.